Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller. Today, we're going to be talking about Palmetto Bay with candidate for Vice Mayor Mark Merwitzer. Thank you for joining us, Mark.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
So let's look at this. You went and you got your master's from FIU in public administration, right?
No, not FIU. I know that in Miami
Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually went to the University of Florida.
We knew there was a Florida in there. I'm doing a little push for FIU in 72.
Yeah, they're top. What are they top? Like they're in the top 100 now for U.S. News. It's incredible.
Amazing because people locally cared a lot. That's how that happened. And they have a law school out there doing a big push for the school because we want people to go to school there.
The highest bar pass rate in all of Florida, by the way.
It is amazing that could happen. All right, from this tiny little school 30 years ago to recognized from education and MDs are being graduated there in law school. And so it's a relatively young school. And you're relatively young.
Yes, 24.
24. So let's talk about something you did that we all probably still do when you were 16 years old. And so that was, 8 years ago. And you were able to get some things done throughout the state. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Michael, when I was 16 years old, I was driving down the MacArthur Causeway with my dad, visiting my grandmother in Miami Beach, and I just saw car after car swerving out of their lanes, and it was like Mad Max. Just nonstop people driving 50, 60 miles an hour in BMWs, completely out of control in their vehicles, looking down at their phones, and it just got to me as a 16-year-old. And to me, I wanted to make a difference. I've always wanted to as a kid growing up in Palmetto Bay, but that was one of the things when I was in that moment, just seeing car after car coming this close to hitting where I was.
So there you are, 16, and there are plenty of people that were twice your age and 3 times your age that probably saw something pretty close to that.
Yeah, I mean,
didn't do anything.
Yeah, it's on a regular basis. I mean, even still today, I'll admit, we need to ramp up enforcement and education, but obviously back then in 2016, I have a 2 in front of my birth year, by the way. I would just say that it was a mess. I mean, every single day I would go out, I would just see the same pattern of behavior of people who drive here across Miami-Dade County. I mean, I just saw so many near misses. People have actually lost their lives to texting and driving, and it was one of those things where I had to take action. And I'll tell you, Michael, starting off, it was just like that spark. Like, how when you're younger, you always have that spark of energy, like you want to get something done. But what really sustained me throughout this whole thing, it was a 3-year process to get this done in the Florida legislature. There's a couple of things that really pushed me forward, Michael. Number one, as I try to, look into why we have this texting and driving problem, I saw that texting and driving was something called a secondary offense, which means you can't be pulled over for texting and driving back in 2016. And it was something I wanted to change. We were one of the only states across America where that was the law. The only other state at the time was Arizona. I wanted to change that, Michael, because in Palmetto Bay, around the same time that was happening, I was able to become chair of our Youth Community Involvement Board. And I just had this groundswell of opportunity that I wanted to use that position that I had as chair of that youth board in Palmetto Bay to do some good for our community. I know that people my age are some of the worst offenders of texting and driving because, especially nowadays with TikTok and other addictive apps that we have, people use them behind the wheel. And it's a huge challenge that we have because it's a threat to public safety, Michael. It's also just a horrible thing to do because you can threaten to kill someone when you're distracted.
So you were 16 when you started working on that, but there was something in your brain that years before you wanted to be involved in the community and you wanted to make a difference. Tell us about that when you became acutely aware of a drive that you have.
I mean, the earliest, I was involved in the community was 2 things. One, I would ride my bike to school every day from Tuscany Villas all the way to Howard Drive Elementary. I was one of the few kids who rode their bike to school every single day. And on 82nd Avenue and 136, which for those who don't know is the northernmost part of Palmetto Bay. And it was a dangerous crossing because they didn't have any of the countdown pedestrian signals there. And you had to rely on the green light or red light. And for someone who was 7 or 8 years old riding their bike to school every day, my dad actually picked up the phone and called the current mayor, who then called the Public Works Department. And within 2 months, there was a signalized pedestrian crossing at 82nd Avenue.
You were how old?
I was like 7 years old when I first got exposed to that.
So we're just going to go back a little. So there you're 7 and you said, we should do something. Can you go back a little bit farther when you started having this glimmer of light that says, I think we could try to get some stuff done? Tell us about that.
I mean, I think 7 was the youngest, I would say. I'll tell you that. But I'll tell you another one. Another story was I was on the side of the road on 136th Street, just outside of right across from the Home Depot there on the easements, selling mangoes as a kid. I had a sign that said 2 mangoes for $1, and it was one of those first cracks at being an entrepreneur as a kid. And unfortunately, we had one neighbor call the cops on me as an 8-year-old selling mangoes on the side of the road.
How good is
It's
that?
like one of those, like, why would you do that? But to me, what it was as well was what happened was obviously the cops came and said, hey, kid, you have to get out of here. Someone doesn't want you here. And I got really upset. Called up the same public officials. And the next day I heard in the meeting room where the cops have their morning briefing, they had a big sign that said, don't bug the kids. And I was able to go back out. And what that showed me, Michael, was that there are people in the community who, I guess, or they're the vast minority of people. I'd say like less than 0.5% of people out there would do something like call the cops on a kid selling mangoes versus people who are willing to step up and show support and love. And that's what I think Palmetto Bay ultimately is.
So you're running for vice mayor, and for clarity, that is a position that happens to be open, all right? In some other cities, it's the one that gets most votes, but this is a position that is open right now.
Yes.
So if you were vice mayor today and you could push a button, what would be the first couple things that you'd like to work on?
Well, I'll tell you, Michael, one of the first things I'd like to do is bring back something called the Neighborhood Protection Committee. It was actually a committee that we had up until about 2 years ago when my opponents and 4 or 3 other council members, so it was a 4-1 vote, voted to disband the Neighborhood Protection Committee. And that was a committee that did a lot of really good work in our community. It directly heard from residents about what their concerns were, especially when it was related to traffic, overdevelopment, and a lot of other really critical items that people tell me about all the time when I go door knocking. It was the closest thing I would say to a resident-driven committee that set policy and ideas for our community, and that was done away with. So when I get back into office, the first thing I want to do is bring back that Neighborhood Protection Committee.
So I guess you recognize that there are people that want to be involved, that want to make a difference,
Yes.
much like you did, and maybe there's even some young guys out there, gals, girls, that are going, hey, listen, look over here. And so often the adults overlook it because we're just sort of desensitized to it.
Yeah. I mean, what I'll say is, to me, what I think leadership ultimately is, I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, just what I've told you just now with the stories about texting and driving and everything, how we got that done. I would not have been able to get that done without the support of Palmetto Bay and everyone in this community. I would not be sitting in this chair right now, Michael, if it wasn't for the village of Palmetto Bay. Mm-hmm. And what I think leadership ultimately is opening up doors behind you and letting as many people as possible come through to have the same opportunities that you have.
Well, speaking of people coming through, we know that traffic is a big issue for
Yes.
everybody throughout the country, throughout the state, throughout Miami-Dade, and specifically a lot of noise is being made about the traffic in Palmetto Bay, just like Pinecrest, just like Cutler Bay. So what do you think, other than the traffic, the issues are that people want to address?
Well, I'd actually like to address the traffic, if you don't mind.
You have some background on that.
I have a lot of background on trying to address traffic challenges. I work for an organization full-time, this is my job, called the Transit Alliance Miami. And we, as Associate Director of Transit Alliance, spend my day working on issues like trying to tackle our traffic challenges, making communities more walkable, more bikeable, and ultimately giving residents options in how they want to get around. And I'm hoping to bring that expertise and skill set to the Village Council. And I've just heard so many stories now in Palmetto Bay, as I've door knocked, of people are not even able to get out of their driveways. And this, by the way, Michael, is not on like the main roads like that we have, like 82nd Avenue or 77th. I'm talking roads that were never meant for people to cut through on. And now we have one of the worst cut through traffic situations in all of Miami-Dade County. And those are the things, as I've been hearing on the campaign trail, Michael, that I'd love to take action on.
So, you know, for the novice, I look at it and many of us just throw our hands up and go, hey, it is what it is. Yeah. So do you think there's a solution to that?
I mean, what I guess frustrates me about politics these days is that you'll have politicians constantly come on and say, I'm going to wave a magic wand and fix all of our traffic problems overnight if you elect me. I'm going to be real with you. I think the traffic challenges that we have today are a result of over 30 years of failed decision making and poor planning, in my opinion. And you're not going to address those 30 years of poor planning in one term of 4 years. What I will say, though, is there are some immediate things, Michael, that we can do. For example, I actually live on a cut-through street myself. And I was able, because there's a no-through street sign that goes into my neighborhood, I was able to contact Waze, which is the navigation app that a lot of people use to get around, and I took the street off of Waze. And I want to do that for so many people across Palmetto Bay, because they deserve to have peace and quiet on their own streets.
In South Miami, we've gone through different administrations, didn't matter who was there. The same problem was as far as traffic. And so most recently, the county and the city put up no left turns between 7 and 9 into the neighborhoods. And it actually worked. Yeah. And it put it back on the roads to where this is the main road. This is where we want you to go. Don't come through my neighborhood at that time, because there's so many people that were there. I know that sometimes the 87th Avenue Bridge seems to be a big deal. What's the status of that?
I mean, from what I've seen right now is that we're currently in litigation. The bridge had an oral argument, the village and the county had an oral argument in early October. And at this point, we're waiting to see how that goes. And to me, what's important as a politician is standing shoulder to shoulder with our neighbors who are affected by the bridge and really trying to get people involved. Because what I feel like I've heard so much of with the bridge is I think everyone wants the same solution, which is what we're talking about now. People can't even get out of their driveways in the morning, Michael. Yeah. And to me, and I've said this on the campaign trail repeatedly, you cannot count on politicians to be the ones to help you on this issue from Palmetto Bay. This is a county issue. So what that means to me is as my job as vice mayor is to get as many people as possible to go to the county commission chambers and facilitate that engagement as much as I can. And I'll tell you this, the experience I bring to the table in bringing real community engagement around issues like traffic and other things in our community is tangible. My organization that I worked for, I'll give you a concrete example of this, just led the largest community-led redesign of our bus network across Miami-Dade County. So to answer your question directly, we're going to see how this lawsuit plays out, but my job is to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table if the village wins this lawsuit, and everyone has their voices heard.
That's great. And the Palmetto Bay has been known for being contentious and spending money so that they can get their point made.
What frustrates me the most is, and to me, this is something that I've just seen over the years, and this is part of the reason why I'm running, is that we would rather spend $50,000. This is a true statement. You can go to the village manager's budget reports and the open checkbook that we have at Palmetto Bay, and you will see tens of thousands of dollars of lobbyist dollars going to Miami-Dade County. And that lobbyist was originally hired for another issue. And if we really wanted to make a point without suing, I think we could have. And to me, where we're at right now is we'll see where this lawsuit plays out. What I'll also share with you is I'd really like to get back to the real challenges that residents face in terms of the traffic issues that they have. One of the things I'd like to do is, regardless of the bridge, there are a lot of county-owned roads across Miami-Dade County. And it's like what you said. I think we need more no left turn signs. I think there are some roads in Palmetto Bay, Michael, where if you were to turn off of a main road, you'll see that half of the road is blocked with like a beautiful tree. You can actually go by on Old Cutler Road and 155th Street, where if you make a left, it's this beautiful live oak tree that you'll see blocking half of the road. It's very clear you're not supposed to make a left here unless you live there. I think there's so many other roads out there where you can bring that sort of expertise and design, where you can tell people, hey, this road belongs to you, the residents, not someone trying to save 10 seconds to cut through your neighborhood.
So let's talk about the redevelopment of Southland Mall.
Yes.
It's underway. It's going to be a couple of years, but it's certainly going to produce a lot of jobs and opportunities for people. It's going to be a magnificent town center. And we hope for everybody's sake that it works in there. And there may be opportunities for people in Palmetto Bay, because it's really not that far if you live, even if it's on the north end. Certainly that's going to bring some more traffic. But the good news, what they have done is they're going to have, I think, about 1,000 apartments that are there, which is wonderful. So people can go there and they can walk downstairs, right? And Victor Dover would tell you, well, that's been going on for 40 years, but it's just reaching us here in Miami-Dade County. So there's certainly going to be some challenges for Palmetto Bay and dealing with that extra traffic, but we balance that out with there's going to be opportunities in entertainment. And in Palmetto Bay, is there a town center of sorts that people can go to and still feel the community?
Mike, I'll share this with you. The current council has voted for every single high-rise development in Palmetto Bay. And that's a true statement. You can look that up. It's on their voting record. What I'm hoping to do, and this is what I've actually heard in Palmetto Bay by talking to thousands of neighbors across our village, it's this. People don't want those high-rise apartments that we have. What people want are more shopping opportunities, more dining opportunities, places to go, and also even places to work. The amount of people who have told me that they would work in Palmetto Bay in a heartbeat if it means saving them an hour-and-a-half commute every single day is off the charts. I'll tell you that. What I'll also say is Palmetto Bay is this growing bedroom community in terms of property values and also just the amount of people that we have who are willing to spend money. If you're a business willing to come to Palmetto Bay, I'd like to help facilitate that. And I think that that's going to take a lot of work in trying to work directly with the community. Our commercial base right now in Palmetto Bay is car dealerships and strip malls. To me, what I think the future of Palmetto Bay is what I just said about more shopping, dining, entertainment opportunities, even working opportunities. Do people want high rises? No. And as a matter of fact, Michael, let me just end with this. One of the great things the Neighborhood Protection Committee did was pass a 45-foot height limit north of 168th Street, which is about half of our village. So you're never going to see high-rise developments north of there. And that was something that was resident driven. That's why I think we need to have more of those committees.
So how do you balance out the rights and opinions of the people that live in homes and then the rights of property owners? How do you balance that?
That is the ultimate question of local government. I am so glad you asked that, Michael. What I'll tell you is this. I think it's about bringing people along with you as you're doing things instead of having a top-down, we're going to do this or this, and then we're going to do that to you. What I think government is about is bringing people along with you so that we do things with people every step of the way. I'll tell you, for every neighbor who shows up to a council meeting expressing concerns about whatever developments it is, my money is on the fact that they were never reached out to about this up until that hearing for, like, let's say...
And why is that? Is that by design?
To me, I feel like there could be a couple of things that we could change and do better on. Yes.
Certainly that started, I'm thankful for county government in those cases, but they changed the transparency rule concerning development of property, which was, it used to be they would have to mail out a postcard to a certain distance. Then they reduced it by a half or 2/3. Then sometimes the green signs are required, sometimes they're not. And all that was to avoid people showing up and registering a complaint.
Well, Michael, I'll tell you this. I don't think it's about sending postcards and then hoping that people don't see it in the mail and they throw it away. What I think true community engagement is about, and by the way, again, this is my skill set that I do every single day at Transit Alliance, is community engagement and working directly with people. I've knocked on doors for this campaign. I am happy to do the same. If there's a development coming up in someone's neighborhood, I will be the first to knock on your door saying, hi, I'm Mark, I'm your vice mayor. There's X development that's happening in your community. I want you to have a voice. What do you think the future of X property should look like?
In South Miami, we have those type of charrettes all the time, and it's really good. So you can go, all right, and have a conversation. There was one development when it first started, the only one commissioner wanted it, but by the end of the year, all the issues concerning the neighbors have been addressed. They had multiple meetings, made it, they did some in the morning, they did it at lunchtime, they did it in the evenings, and addressed each of the issues. So when they went before the council, say, here are the 500 people that attended all these different things over the last year. These are some of the concerns, and this is what we did about it. Can the Palmetto Bay people do that on a regular basis?
I think it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of energy, and a lot of time and willingness to work with the community. And what I'll tell you, Michael, is I feel like I bring that to the table. A lot of people are out there on the campaign trail right now attacking the fact that I'm young. And to me, I think that is one of my biggest assets, Michael, that I'm young and I am full of energy and full of willingness to tackle these issues and work directly with people. And that's something I'm willing to do.
Well, we're fortunate here in our filming studio. Ray Shell, who's here, is among 4 people that are under the age of 25. What a difference it's made. All the stuff that we've already dismissed, right? When you hear it come up again, you go, oh, maybe we should take a look at that. And that's an important issue that you have and that we all have. If you don't bring in new blood, people that look at it a little bit differently, you're just going to keep going the way it's going until there's some new evidence. So what is it when you get elected, what is it you're going to do to help the local businesses interact with the government and try to do the best job for their area residents?
I'll tell you this, Michael. On the campaign trail, I have heard from so many different residents across Palmetto Bay about how much of a nightmare it is to do basic permitting in Palmetto Bay.
Excuse me for 1 second. So we're running right now across the bottom for your website. It's marked for palmettobay.com.
Yes.
So if people try to reach you, you can do it right there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And also, early voting starts next week on Monday. I encourage everyone to go vote and, again, make a plan. It starts at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can do it at both the Palmetto Bay Branch Library on Old Cutler Road, along with the Coral Reef one.
Coral Reef one's a pretty active place over there.
Yes.
I enjoy it.
It's very lively. I've been there a couple times.
There you go, lively.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were saying about the local businesses. What can the city do to assist them?
Yeah, to me, as I said earlier, one of the things I've heard on the campaign trail is 2 things. One, we have some of the highest permitting fees in the entire Miami-Dade County. And the second thing is permits take forever. And so many people were telling me about doing basic things like trying to change out their driveway to make it something that they want with their own property was taking them months to get approval for. And to me, that's really unfortunate, because that's one of the basic things of local government, is to make sure that our residents have the ability to do what they want with their property, so long as it's not obviously like completely egregious. And I think for local businesses as well, is I'm sure the same kind of permitting challenges are there. And I'll tell you as well, real estate, and one of the largest costs for our business owners, Michael, are taxes. If you look at our commercial base in Palmetto Bay, our millage rate, or our tax rate, has gone up consistently over the last 4 years. And that's something I want to tackle as well.
It's wonderful. We know that in South Miami and the areas, that the longer it takes for the permits to be issued, the less enthusiastic the applicant is.
Time is money.
Yes, and then you just lose the drive to do it. And what are we missing out because we're not allowing this flow to happen? We'd say, okay, we can do this project, and then I have to spend 6 months on the next project instead of say, let's work at this, let's get those young people in there, let's make it and move that forward. So you're going to work on that?
Yes, that's one of my top priorities.
Okay. Next, tell us about what you think the city can do to assist in the mental health arena.
What I'll tell you is this is actually something that's affecting my generation the most. You look at the data around people who are my age, and it's just almost like a line that goes straight up. It's horrific what we've seen over the last couple of years, especially with younger people's mental health. I think a large part of that is when I was growing up, I was able to go outside quite a bit without supervision because my parents were able to trust the local street that we were on for me to walk around and go play outside on. I feel like that's not a thing anymore in Palmetto Bay because of the amount of cut-through traffic that we have. What I'd like to do is twofold. One, again, it's what we mentioned earlier with the cut-through traffic. I'm a huge believer in those no left turn signs, but also just across Miami-Dade County in general. I think streets ultimately belong to our children and our people more than anything, especially for our local streets. So I want to make it safe for parents to feel that their kid is safe enough to go outside and play on their own without constant supervision.
And we know the Japanese have known this for years. Yep. Go out into the wilderness and stand there without your shoes on and feel what's really going on, and just take a few moments and do a little meditation, eyes open or eyes closed, and just breathe it in so we can move forward. We have 38 seconds left. So in that time, what I'd like you to do is think about people that have helped you along your road. It might be a mentor or a family member or other people, and people that if you want to thank them, that would be a good thing to do. If not, that's okay. And whether they're here or they've already passed. So why don't you look into the blue camera, and you're on right now. I've got 1 minute.
I just want to really thank, most importantly, my grandmother, who recently passed away in January. She was a Palmetto Bay resident since the 1970s, and she was the one who brought my family to Palmetto Bay. And I wouldn't have the future I have right now because of her for a number of reasons, not just for her moving to Palmetto Bay, but she taught me growing up that you need to be active in your community. She had always had the news on TV. As a kid, I'd try and go to grandma's house and try and watch cartoons, but every time I'd walk into my grandmother's room, I would see the news on, and she would always invite me to sit down and watch with her. And it's one of those experiences that I had growing up that I think gave me the fire that I needed to be in this chair right now today. So I could not be more thankful to her, who is no longer with us, but thank you, Nana.
Okay. Mark Merwitzer, folks, candidate for vice mayor. You can find him on all over the internet. All right. And again, what's your website address?
markforpalmettobay.com.
Oh, my goodness. All right. See you on November 5th or 6th.
Yes, 5th.
Hold on one second, folks.